Races once again. All right.
Have you ever noticed how Mexicans are always wearing windbreakers? Welcome to Loveline.
By the sound of your laugh, I could tell that you were molested.
Oh man. Millennials should be doing some gainful employment rather than turning up and down the gain on their podcast. This is Adam Carolla.
Hawaiians are some of the dumbest people we have. That's an actual quote.
Typically, girls who wear mini skirts past college have had sex with over 300 people because they were molested in.
If you haven't figured out yet by the horrible voices we're doing, today's episode, Thursday, June 6th, we are delving once again into the entertainment and comedy output of the DailyWire. And we are joined by Chapo senior animation correspondent, Ben Clarkson, who you may remember from such episodes as Demolition Man and such beautiful animated trailers as the latest season of Blowback. Ben, welcome back.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here to talk about the literal scum of animation that floats to the top of the swamp that is the Daily Wire production services tax dodge scam.
Yeah, doing Mr. Birchum was my idea, and I have to say, this is the worst thing I've ever watched for the show. There's no question. This is, I mean, we'll get into it. There's so much wrong with it, but it would just as far as like what was the least pleasant, least artistically daring, has the least merit, and deserves to exist the least, I would say it's this.
It barely exists. It barely exists. I can get into that. It's a lot of whiplash for you guys for animation this week. You did Oshi's work to this. You did like the best ever to, I would say, the worst adult animation ever produced. I don't think that's hyperbole. I think this is the worst adult animation ever produced.
What if there was an interview with Oshie like this month and he's like, I actually really like Mr. Birchum. It's really inspired me.
Adam Carolla is finding new lenses of subjectivity to bring to the world of art and animation. I gotta say, okay. So the last Daily Wire comedy we did was the excruciating Lady Ballers. But what Lady Ballers had was like an actually sort of bizarre and grotesque hatefulness, which this show, despite the hateful people that made it, the thing that really distinguishes Mr. Birchum from other, sort of abortive conservative attempts at creating entertainment or humor is how utterly, utterly joyless and phoned in this is. It is. I swear to God, I felt like I was watching this on my laptop and I was looking at my media player. These episodes are 24 minutes long, and I swear to God, I was like 15 minutes into an episode, and I was looking at the time elapsed, and it felt like it was going backwards. It was
if you want to feel like you have the powers of bullet time, like Max Payne, watch Mr. Birchum. Time will slow to a degree you did not know was possible. Just speaking to how phoned in and joyless this was, as Will said, the voices in this, like people have made a lot of hay about how elderly and tired the voices on The Simpsons sound now, which is true.
Yeah.
Like they sound, that show is recorded in a fucking hospice. But on this show, there are so many characters, Mr. Birchum included, where their actors so clearly sound like they are at gunpoint. They do not want to be there. Half the voices on this show are fucking disinterested. They know how shitty the material is. The woman, whoever is playing the principal, is it like some
Roseanne
like
Barr?
Jeremy?
That's Roseanne Barr.
That's Roseanne?
Yes,
She's
Roseanne.
Roseanne.
She's supposed to be like a lunatic. She's supposed to be a crazy person. And during this, she sounds like my mom when I tell her about video games I like.
Yeah, she's on a bar of Zan just trying to get through the session. But like especially Adam Toyota Corolla.
His voice is so appalling.
His performance is miserable. It's his show. He got everything he wanted on this show, and he's just like, bah, 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 bah. Oh, when you use the microwave, press 3 twice. Shut the fuck up.
He's like, they like set up a drive-through recording studio for Adam Carolla. It is, no one has ever given a shit less. And like, if this was like some shitty show that like, Jeremy Boring or any of those other guys wrote, it'd be like, okay, I get it. But no, you had total creative control. And I hate saying this, but it's true. Adam Carolla was like funny at one point. And
yes.
One of the reasons this show is so dire and so horrible to me is that the subject matter, which is like sort of like a dated perception of a woodshop teacher, that used to be the fulcrum of Adam Carolla's material, was sort of like the direness and the hopelessness of a pastiche of like 1970s America. And it was very funny because he very accurately like painted the picture of how shitty things were. But one of the reasons this is so bad is like, because he's like, everyone is like has such an idiotic perception of like culture war politics now. He has to take his entire act, which was basically a biographical recounting and a really accurate portrayal of like shitty 1970s lower middle class America, and say, no, all that was good actually because it wasn't woke.
Yes.
And it completely like upends everything that made him funny and interesting.
And doing like a little bit of background research for this, I realized that Mr. Birchum is a character that Carolla premiered on the show Crank Yankers.
Yes.
You guys got almond milk?
Yes. We also have hemp milk.
Oh, hemp. Well, I don't want to catch you high.
No.
I ain't Rastafarian.
He's recycling material from Crank Yankers for this show. And like to your point about like, okay, he's a shop teacher. And like 90% of the jokes on this show are about different kind of power tools. But another reason this show is heinously unfunny is that it like, because it's Carolla, like, you know, it's pure from the mind of Adam Carolla. It's something I've noticed throughout his whole career, like, you know, starting with Loveline, The Man Show, even Crank Yankers, is Adam Carolla sincerely regards working on a job site in construction as like serving in the military. The way he talks about his experiences being like working in construction is like he was on the Bataan Death March or something. And he thinks it's like a cross between storming the beaches at Normandy and being like a roadie for Led Zeppelin in the 70s. It's both the most valorous, honorable thing you can do and the coolest, most badass thing of all time.
And yet he has nothing but contempt for anyone who does any work or labor. Like they even say in the show, like, oh, don't hire a worker. Don't hire someone to do a job. How dare you? This show is like if somebody watched The Simpsons and thought we should listen to that Homer guy more. Because the dad in the sitcom is supposed it's not a comedy, right? They fail at the basic premise of comedy. Basically, what the show is it's King of the Hill, but they left out all of the heart and jokes.
Yes,
and they thought let's listen to Hank all the time.
About the King of the Hill episode where Hank becomes a shop teacher at Bobby's school, and like. It's that episode, but drawn out over a series. But like you said, shorn of like the actual like love for the characters that King of the Hill had, and you can say the King of the Hill even had some like genuine conservative values in the show too. But like the thing is, like King of the Hill had real characters and it had a real sense of place and specificity and real heart to it, and like an actually funny joke. So like this is just the episode of King of the Hill where Hank becomes the shop teacher and all the kids love him because he teaches them about, you know, a miter saw, except it's every episode is that. And like, it's grotesque.
Yeah. But
it's
there's
awful.
heart
I mean, it hates every,
Well, like the key thing that you miss with this show comparing it to any other show is that it actually has the exact same tonal problems that the equivalent, like, liberal version of the show that, like, a Tuca and Birdie would have, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have the exact same problem preventing them from being funny, which is they are so terrified of actual friction with the main characters. The main characters can have no actual friction or texture. They're so terrified that for a second the characters will be genuinely unlikable or unviable in any way, that there cannot be any moment of friction or texture. There cannot be any real conflict.
No characters can be wrong.
Because there's no real conflict, the characters don't actually have any fucking characterization. They can't actually be unreasonable or pompous or any of the things that work for an actual character in a comedy.
Like, most of the jokes on King of Hill came from, like, a very specific knowledge of, like, Texas culture, and most of the jokes were at the expense of, like, a certain Texas type of personality, but it was done lovingly, and, like, and the details of it were so on point that, like, you don't need to be from Texas to understand why it's funny. Whereas this is just, the jokes on the show are just all at the expense of the Daily Wire and Adam Carolla's enemies. And, like,
yes.
the sort of the DEI coordinator character, like Mr. Whatever the word the Pope used last week to describe gay people, that's the name of this character. Mr. Fragoloccio, like, but no, like, Felix, to your point about how this show, like, it can never allow its character, it can never allow any joke to be had at the expense of its, like, of Mr. Birchum and the Mr. Birchums of the world. I thought it'd be interesting. I wanted to read from a review of this show in the Washington Examiner by a guy named Stephen Kent, and the headline is "Mr. Birchum delivers anti-woke comedy." But, like, kind of similar to the reviews that we shared for the Jerry Seinfeld Unfrosted movie, I think the way in which this show is praised is very telling. And I just want to dive into this. And there's one specific line that I'll get to, but it says here, "Mr. Birchum is here to make you useful, or else." That's the vibe for a new animated series by Adam Carolla about a besieged high school shop class teacher, debuting Sunday on Daily Wire Plus. The show is written with the transgressive animated stylings of Futurama, Brickleberry, American Dad, and The Simpsons, and it stars a hodgepodge of political talking heads and dissident comedians. First of all, the show is written in the transgressive animated stylings of The Simpsons and Futurama, okay? But I also I love the phrase dissident comedians, which is just a way of saying comedians that you don't know and aren't funny.
Comedians with a YouTube channel rather than a tour.
It goes on here. Adam Carolla masterfully voices the gruff Mr. Birchum, with former Fox News anchor Megyn Kelly stepping in as his overzealous realtor wife. The Daily Wire's Brett Cooper voices the teenage Jeanie Birchum, and Roseanne Barr plays Principal Bortles in all her weird day-drunk glory.
Who's the principals or Roseanne Barr?
I don't know.
It's the method, Felix. The method.
But Felix, I want to get to your point here. It says here, the premise is simple. Mr. Birchum is a craftsman who should have been teaching public school kids in the 1980s. He's one part Major Payne and another part Bob Belcher of Bob's Burgers. He's over the top in his masculine virtues, but not a bad guy. Okay, here's the money shot. Birchum is no Bart Simpson or Peter Griffin, in that he's not loathsome and lazy.
Yeah, no, God forbid he's a character from a show that people actually like and laugh while watching.
I love
it's not just that, like, they can't make fun of the characters, it's that, like, they can't like meaningfully make fun of anything in a way that where there's actual texture and meaning.
Yes.
Like, there are a lot of shows that are afraid to make their main characters unlikable. And that really isn't a death sentence for anything, much less adult animation. You can still have a funny show, but there's no actual conflict, like, anywhere. They don't commit to anything. Like the fucking episode where it's like them versus the army guys, and you know from the moment that those guys walk on the screen that, like, Mr. Birchum is going to have some boring ass thing where he's like, actually, I have a lot of respect for you at the end of the day, even though it's this completely, like, there was no actual conflict to begin with. They were so close to that, they got terrified and ran in the other direction. The show is filled with things like that, where, oh my God, we almost had a moment with human emotions besides, like, soy-facing, smirking references towards, like, Ninja.
Yes.
God forbid we have that. Run away. It's so much like the Eternals or something, or like Tuca and Birdie in that way. It's insane.
Yeah, it's unable to, because animated comedies, they make fun of I'm going to point to King of the Hill and The Simpsons. They make fun of the father, right? The father is a ridiculous character. Homer and Hank, they have their paternal authority, but they're ridiculous characters, and it's a tragedy for them because they're buffoons. This one takes your dad and presents him straight, and you have to listen to him because there's still 15 minutes left on the media player timeline. There's this bit where he's like, when you're pressing the buttons on the microwave, press 3-3. It goes faster than pressing 3 and 0, and you'll save so much of your life saying it. And it's played like straight, as though he's giving advice. And any other comedy could have actually taken this material and then pointed like, look at how ridiculous this person is. But it's unwilling to show us how ridiculous any character is. It's unwilling to have American life be a farce. The farce is always like, someone is fucking it up. I kept waiting for the scheming merchant to come out of one of the classrooms and them to be like, there he is, get him.
To that end, one of the most infuriating things about this show is, like, I thought at least, like, they would do the easiest thing, right? Which is Mr. Birchum is a relic of the past. So all these kids who are, like, on their apps and being triggered with their genders, they're going to fucking hate him. And I thought, like, in the first episode, that's kind of what they go with. But that is, like, too difficult and scary for them to write. Mm-hmm. So by the second episode, all the kids are like, Mr. Birchum, I may be polyamorous, but I love you. You told me how to use a bander saw, and I'm not woke anymore. And it's like, God forbid there was any conflict between characters here. Thank God you got rid of that.
Well, and without having the conflict with characters, there's no like affection between characters too. Like when you're doing comedy writing 101, it's focus on relationships. Because people want to see how relationships play out. They want to see people fall into a conflict, and then they can see the conflicts in their own lives acted out, and it holds attention. Like, relationships are the load-bearing beam of comedy, and you want to focus on that. There's no affection even in the guy's own fucking family, right? Like, what is his relationship with his wife? Is he breaking up with Megyn Kelly? And I should give, like, a little kudos. We're dunking on this. I actually think Megyn Kelly does a pretty good job in this show.
Was her voice acting was better. Yeah, her voice acting was better than Adam Carolla's.
Oh, 100%. In fact, I want the show to be entirely about her. I think her character is much more interesting, and I actually think the idea, but you can see where the difference between the idea and the execution here is that they're sort of like their marriage. She's a Democrat, he's a Republican, she's a real estate dealer, he renovates the house. That's good. These are good ideas, and that their marriage is sort of on the rocks, and then they do nothing with it. They just sort of gesture towards it and be like, see, we did writing. Now to make fun of the DEI consultant.
But Ben, to your point, it's like King of the Hill, Family Guy, The Simpsons. Like, what do these shows all have in common is that they understand American culture is a farce, and that's where they mine their humor from. Whereas this show's attitude is that American culture is the best. It's the greatest country in the world. Thank our brave troops who protect our liberty. But the farcical aspects of it are this alien thing that's been introduced called woke or DEI. Yes. And like, as such, that's the only source of, if you want to call it humor. But like, your point about
the Chinese and the Chinese.
And the Chinese.
Yeah.
I love this. Where this is another thing from the Washington Examiner. It says here, the show feels like a mid-2000s comedy, both in its self-aware sense of macho humor and unflinching bad attitude towards kids these days. It's Tim Allen's Home Improvement with more edge and an awareness of online culture. And I just think
Home Improvement has way more edge.
Yes.
It has way fucking more edge.
Yes.
Family Circus has more edge.
I love that thing where they're just saying like, okay, yeah, like it's basically mining the exact same comedy unsuccessfully that was like already tapped out in the 90s, but it has edge and an awareness of online culture. That really sums it up. And Felix, last night you texted the group chat that this is the worst thing that you've ever had to do for the show, and that a groiper should be allowed to kill Adam Carolla. Felix, you remember Music Groiper?
Yes, my hero.
We need to find television comedy groiper and give him Adam Carolla's address.
Yes. If you television comedy groiper, if you are out there, a groiper who is expert in all things from Norman Lear to the modern day, you should be able to execute like a Giles Corey style execution of Adam Carolla.
No jury would convict.
No, the groiper's the jury and the judge and the executioner. This is the groiper court.
Yeah, Felix, Sanford and Son groiper. He is going to be. He's being dispatched. But
Jefferson's groiper, Sanford and Son groiper, we're all going out for brunch.
But I think one of the interesting things about one of the reasons we wanted to do this episode about Mr. Birchum is that I've been really enjoying because the way they're pushing this really hard, and they said in the Washington Examiner article, like, after Lady Ballers, like, this is another attempt of like this is another building block on the road to the Daily Wire constructing like an alternate Hollywood and entertainment industry that caters to the values of the forgotten masses, et cetera, et cetera. But what I think I've been enjoying about this is seeing how negative the reaction to this dog shit is from the people it's intended to be. Like, that's the slop junkies that are supposed to be liking this. I just saw one. It was like Ben Shapiro was like posting something about like, this week, like, check out Mr. Birchum premieres on Daily Wire Plus, and I just saw someone reply to him go, Jewish and gay.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. The response to this has been so fucking funny because it's like 99% negative, right? And 44% of that, right, is like groipers who are like, yeah, this is Jewish and gay, and they're drawing pictures of Mr. Birchum holding an Israel mug. And being like, Israel's the only democracy and our greatest friend. Try going to a pride parade in Gaza. And then the other 45% are like regular conservative, like Daily Wire subscribers who are like, hey, I really liked, Let's Kill Trans People, the movie, and all the other bullshit you guys did. But this really sucks. Like, this is not funny. I don't like this. I'm unsubscribing. And then 1% people who are like 63-year-old wards of the state who are like, this is hilarious. I almost died from getting my tie caught in a printer this week. But I love Mr. Birchum.
That's the exact audience for Mr. Birchum.
Yeah.
They did not try with this show. Like, it is really obvious, even in the animation. I don't think they're going to be pushing this very hard because this show looks like shit. It is done it looks like if Family Guy had a extra chromosome and it came out wrong.
If Bob's Burgers were made with British beef stock that gave everyone mad cow, they gave everyone prion disease in their brain. And it's like, Ben, to your point about how shitty the animation is on the show, they do the classic Simpsons thing of having all of the human characters have 4 fingers. But I don't know, for some reason, it never really registers in The Simpsons. Whereas every time I see someone's hand on this show, I recoil in horror. I just go, oh, fuck, it looks like E.T. Ugh, Jesus Christ.
Because like with everything on this show, they can't commit to one thing or the other.
Yes.
With The Simpsons, the finger thing actually like lends itself to the show, right? It's great because it fits the tonality of The Simpsons, which is, this is the real world, but there's enough cartoon logic, right? There's enough like classic Looney Tunes style physical logic to this world so that it's fun, but it's grounded enough that we can make fun of like actual existing things in this world, but there's a timeless quality to it still.
Yeah, I think the yellow helps.
With Mr. Birchum, there's no frame of reference for time or its relationship to reality. It depends on like the scene or whatever shitty joke they're making. That's a trend that I've noticed with all adult animation like this. Brickleberry is like this. They can't decide whether they have like a Looney Tunes relationship with reality or like a, I guess like Bob's Burgers one, right? Like it's totally inconsistent, and there's no, they pick and choose when things are permanent and when things are not.
Yeah.
And that is a hallmark in shitty adult animation. And Mr. Birchum is one of the worst offenders in it because it routinely forgets what kind of show it is. It does not know.
It has no place. It has no time. Like, I was surprised when some character said, "This is California. This is L.A."
It's Los Angeles. What?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. And another thing, another similarity that this show shares with a lot of like other bad animation for adults is that it relies heavily on like the Family Guy joke formulation of like someone saying something like, "Hey, remember when blah blah blah, like this insane thing happened?" And then it'll cut away to literally like just render the joke and make it legible, which is kind of like, South Park made fun of Family Guy for doing that. It's kind of lazy writing. But the thing that this show does that's truly unique is that there is no turn or surprise in the joke at all. A character will say something like, "Remember when we went camping and the bears drank all our beer," or something? And then it'll cut to them camping and a bear just ransacking their beer. Like, that's just it. Like, it didn't need to be depicted.
Yeah.
It didn't need to be depicted.
In defense of the Family Guy joke format, right? The original reason they did that on Family Guy, and the reason they continue to do that, and the reason why, they'll get dinged for it, but audiences by and large respond to it positively, is because for the most part, especially towards like the first two runs of that show, those jokes were jokes that like dealt with such like niche topics. They made fun of such specific things that you wouldn't see anywhere else, that there was no natural way to get there, right?
Yeah, like that was the only way they could do that. Thomas Pynchon or something. Like
exactly.
They're not referencing shit on this show. Yeah.
Right. Like it was making fun of like it would be something about like Thomas Pynchon or like a hyper specific social interaction that no one has ever really like made fun of in this format before. And they know that it's like there's no natural way to get there, and part of the joke is that it's in that format. But they do the same like dislocating method for telling jokes, but with like the jokes that you've seen on Free Republic since 1999.
Well, and it comes out of gag cartooning too. Like that, there is a tradition that leads to that type of format, and I have a lot of respect for. I can't believe I'm saying this. I have a lot of respect for Family Guy. I like deflate while saying that, but the gag cartoon, the visual gag, like one Family Guy cartoon stays with me of like that time Peter worked at SeaWorld and has the guy swinging fish over the pool, and then Peter jumps out like Shamu. Great.
Yeah,
that's funny.
That's a surprise. That's
gag.
A turn. Yeah.
I love the sight gag. I love just random cartoons. As you said, Will, Mr. Birchum cannot do it. No one has an imagination who wrote that show. They have that disease in the brain where they can't picture an apple if you say the word apple.
I literally think if you went into the writer's room and you were able to kill one of the writers in front of them, but there was no like sound, you did it with like a silenced pistol, they wouldn't notice. They would just keep writing. It would be like if you kill a deer with a silenced bullet.
Or not writing. I don't think many of these scripts went past the first draft, to be honest. This screams a first draft.
And then there are the like actual written jokes on this show. And I'll give you an example.
Are there?
The one that sticks out in my head in terms of the one that I remembered was when it was the episode where Mr. Birchum tries to get his table saw fixed at the good old-fashioned American hardware store, but it's been bought out by a Chinese conglomerate. And he's there with his stepdaughter, and he says a line where he goes, "The only brick and mortar stores in the future are going to be stores that sell brick and mortar."
Oh God!
I can't describe, like Ben was talking about. I can't describe to you how deflating the punchlines on like when the jokes land on this show. I feel like they say like smoking cigarettes, every cigarette you smoke takes 15 minutes off your life. I just smoked a pack of them watching this show. I watched 4 episodes of this show, and I swear to God, I watched the first episode. I'm up here at my mom's house. I had to leave the house, get in my car, and go drive to like look at some cows in a field. I just had to like that's how much this like just 20 minutes of this show took out of me. And I knew I had 3 more to get through. Yeah.
You responded like Michael Clayton after the game he had.
I kept expecting to turn around and my car explode.
You had the same reaction that Michael Clayton had after they killed his best friend and he uncovered a whole conspiracy.
Another really disastrous part of this show that does not work at all is that the show doesn't. Okay, what's another great thing that people like about Family Guy, King of the Hill, Simpsons? The broad cast of characters and how even minor characters, when they show up, you remember them and their story and how they fit into everything. This show introduces main characters in like the first episode, but does nothing with them. And like it's just like like the cast that surrounds Mr. Birchum, they have no idea what to do with these characters or how they fit in. Like his black friend Gage is just like the only characteristic I remember about him is that he's a horrible alcoholic and throws up all the time. Like once again, Ben, it comes back to your thing about relationships. It's just unclear. Like the minor and supporting characters just do not fit into the narrative, the jokes, anything. They are just there. And they're just pawns on a chessboard. They're just totally disposable.
I think that has to do a little bit with production budget, actually. So I did a little bit of snooping and got in contact with the studio that produced Mr. Birchum. And I told that studio...
Are they prisoners?
Well, sort
People
of.
at ADX Florence are animating this?
Some are definitely are Eastern Europeans with a weak grasp of Spanish, apparently. So I reached out to the studio. I went to the IMDb. I found a name that ended in Martinez. I knew that this person was involved probably in doing some work because everyone else is a producer. This person, line producer. She's probably doing real work. So I find her studio and I reached out to it and I told her myself and my associates love Mr. Birchum. We're making a show called Roll Call about kids in high school playing D&D. And then I basically describe the purchase order for Mr. Birchum and say, like, we're right on the edge of pulling the trigger on this. We just need some numbers for the finance guys. And so I was able to twist her arm to get some numbers for Mr. Birchum. And one of the things they brought up was amount of characters on screen. This whole show cost less than $2 million to produce, which I find,
wow.
All episodes, all 6 episodes total, $2 million to produce, which is absurd. And she even brought up like, oh yeah, we reuse the opening titles over and over again to cut costs. Like, this is a cheap show. I don't know if you guys noticed, there are scenes that are clearly unfinished, where in between animation has not been done. Like, there's this shot in the cheese hot tub, which is garbage. Like, I'm not going to explain that joke. It's a garbage joke, all the garbage in the show, where it's just like, it's like puppet animation, 2 frames a second. They ran out of budget.
Ben, I literally thought I was having connection problems. Like, I'm not kidding. The way I at least watched this show was I found a link to a Dropbox on the Adam Carolla subreddit where, in case you're wondering, they don't like this show either. But I was watching on Dropbox, and like the shitty animation, I literally thought, oh, that's weird. My internet's pretty fast. That usually doesn't happen, but I guess I'll download them. I downloaded them, and I have a completely new computer, everything like literally taken out of the box on Tuesday. I have a 4090. I have like everything you could want, and I still have the same like stuttering effects, and it was like, no,
that's production.
This show is animated like there was lag in real life.
But the pilot actually is very smooth. They put all their money into the pilot, and everything else suffered.
It's not just the shitty animation. It's like the pacing of the show is so strange too.
Yes.
Because like often, like you're expecting there to be a follow up to a joke. Like, okay, I think it's like in episode 2 or something where Megyn Kelly and her friend go to a spa and they get into an argument about supporting Obama. And her friend is a black woman voiced by, I think, former ESPN anchor Sage Steele, who was canceled because of anti-wokeness or something like that. But anyway, so it's like you're watching these characters and they're having like a political debate. And Megyn Kelly's character is like, how could you not vote for Obama? You know, like he's for you. And then she just says something like, you only voted for Obama because of white guilt. And then there's like a second pause where I'm waiting for like a follow up or like something to, bring this joke home. No, it just cuts to Mr. Birchum. It just cuts to a completely different scene.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that scene because that scene is so insane. Like they're setting it up like it's a classic sitcom setup where like the two wives are gonna have a day, but like one of the wives is gonna say something that like it kicks off a whole awkward thing. But they keep going back and forth in it. Like you think the thing that's going to bust it open is the Obama thing. But after that, when they come back to them after she says the Obama thing, and of course there's like any like hack joke from Free Republic, you can imagine they say it. Oh, you're my black friend that I tell other people about. Like, I don't think anything was ever rejected in this writer's room, but they have that. They like introduce the tension. But then the next time you see them, they're like, we didn't do that well enough. So they do the same thing again. Mm-hmm. They're back to normal. And then they have the Obama argument again. And I want to point out that Obama was president 9 fucking years ago.
Yes. That's what I was losing my mind during this scene. Like, was this show in development hell since 2009? Because, like, even the right-wing politics on this show are of such a distinct vintage. I kept waiting for the Sage Steele character. Like, the Megyn Kelly's character is like, oh, what? You don't want universal health care for everyone? And then swear to God, I was expecting the Sage Steele character to just say, no, I'm taxed enough already. Support Tea Party patriots, circa 2011. I was expecting some jokes about Joe Biden or something, but no, it's about Obama.
It's so antiquated, like because it's stuck on this Republican Party mode of like, oh, Dems are the real racists, and not we love like racism's awesome.
Yes.
Not like
we need to stop the dysgenic gene pools from tainting our country's racial destiny. Yeah.
We love being Latino and racist.
I mean, like in terms of the actual content of the 4 episodes we've watched, like it's almost impossible to like actually describe the plots of each of these episodes. But like episode 1 is like they introduce the Mr. Fagadoccio character, and he's like he's just like the DEI. He's a social justice Jedi or something, and he's just there to just be like, it's the same joke over and over again with this guy. He's just like, could you stop being so toxic and triggering to our gender fluid students? And Mr. Birchum's like, I'm an alcoholic who's angry about this. Like that's basically
no one loves me.
Like Beavis and Butthead did this character 30 fucking years ago, and they did hit.
Mike Judge did it better.
It was so much funnier, and that was before DEI. Like it's astounding. This character is so shitty, and like the only reason he exists is so they can do the most brain dead word gags. Like the typical scene he's in. Mr. Birchum will be like, well, we should get school management to help us get a murder saw. And then the like pussy weak bitch character is like, management, we say womanagement around here. And it's like, how do you not, like, if you're in an actual writer's room filled with competent adults, how do you not like stomp out the person that said that like it's a gang initiation?
Well, what happened is it wasn't full of competent adults. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was full of yes men, garbage, fail sons who got fired from Disney for touching their secretary and ended up in content acquisition at DailyWire Plus. Like nobody involved in this show has talent. Like the talent is the low grade Eastern European worker who's just looking to get into the industry. Like, I looked at the Glassdoor, I looked at the reviews of the studio, and one of them said, if exploitation had a name, it would be Wise Blue Studios. Like, nobody gives a shit about how this was made. Like, the content is, I said earlier, it screams of first draft. It screams of, okay, we did it. We wrote it. Get it out the door. I don't think there was much editing or vision. I think these guys cashed their checks and they said, that's good. We're good at this.
Yeah. Can I just point out something else that I hate about like the woke DII character?
Yes.
Character. One thing, this is like one thing I hate about him. This is like more minor. This is more like quibbling, but like so much of his like woke stuff is like dated. Like he has a man bun, and it's like, again, what is this, 2012? But more in like the other thing is this happens multiple times. That like Mr. Birchum or someone else from the school is like, oh, our school is falling apart, but we're spending all this money on this woke guy. And it's like, you guys don't want to like spend more money on schools.
Yes.
That's not your thing. Yeah. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, politically, this show is completely incoherent. Like, in one episode, she's like, oh, universal healthcare. And then the next episode, he stops being a contractor. He has to give up on his dreams because he doesn't have health insurance. And I'm like, bitch, please make up your mind.
Another good example is in I think in episode 3, where it's about woke Chinese power tools ruining America.
The fuck.
And it's just like, oh, like, you know, some hedge fund, the hedge fund bought out this, you know, functioning American business and replaced it with all this woke Chinese crap. And it's just like, what is the Daily Wire's position on global capitalism? That like it's fine, it's fine as long as Lowe's as long as the hardware, the overpriced hardware store stays in business.
Yeah, their hardware store is a reference to Sears, which folded because they adopted neoliberal policies internally and had different departments compete against each other for market resources. So, like, what is their point? Like, the politics of this show are incoherent.
Yeah, I mean, I think, no, but Ben, I think to your point, like, the politics of this show is that, like, and in the sort of like faint praise that I've read for the show, for like in trying to cull reviews for the show. And by the way, nobody reviewed the show other than a website called Based or Not. And then the Washington Examiner. Well, this was there's almost no wokeness in the show, and it is indeed based. But a common refrain among like the critics who, like, you know, sort of like, because they have a gun to their head, they have to like this shit, is that they keep saying, you know, Mr. Birchum really reminds you. Mr. Birchum is so funny because he reminds you of your dad. And he's lovable the way your dad is. And it was just like this repetition of like, he's a dad that just reminds us that dads are good. And I couldn't help but think back to like Carolla's own early life and development, where like his family split up when he was pretty young. And I think he was raised by a mostly single mother. I think the politics of the show is just that like the dad is the source of authority and he must be respected.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, like, that's so depressing because so much of Carolla's comedy, when it was good, and it really was good like 20 fucking years ago, it was specifically like lampooning this type of male figure. Like, he would have these extended bits about like high school football coaches and shop teachers or boxing coaches, this sort of like contrived masculinity, the austerity of that kind of childhood. It was so funny, and he was able to paint such a vivid picture of it with such an economy of speech. And now he's taken that same archetype and been like, actually, this guy's cool and everyone respects him. And actually, most importantly, he may have a gruff exterior, but he really loves you at the end of the day. And it's like, what? Like,
all those
to show him love someone. Because he doesn't. They don't go into any of the warmth or humanity necessary for it to be like a comedy. The difference between tragedy and comedy is tragedy, there's a funeral. Comedy, there's a wedding. There's no fucking wedding here. This is just everyone is miserable.
Well, yeah. I would say that like they think they're showing Mr. Birchum loving other characters, right? They think they're showing these heartwarming moments, but it's entirely through pantomime.
Yeah, because he doesn't get mad.
Right.
In certain situations.
Right. They have no like frame of reference for it. They're falling back on that because they're afraid of making a character who like, would get mad at something that the viewer might find ridiculous. They're afraid of any actual friction. It is the same through line with all types of shows that are supposed to serve like one voting block or another. They all have the same problem. They are so concerned with like making the right sets of cultural illusions and points that they cannot give any actual humanity to the character.
And I think a great example of that is the Daily Wire's predisposition to create a young female character who fully identifies with paternal authority. Like every single one of these shows has like the good girl who does what she's supposed to. So Mr. Birchum has a daughter who's like, I love carpentry and you're the best dad ever. And I'll do whatever Ben Shapiro pays me to do.
I think it's very telling that the one character that he does seem to have any affection for is his stepdaughter, Jeanie, who's like, a carpentry whiz. And she's like, Dad, take me to look at the circular saws. But like, I think there's a very telling moment, and I forget which episode, but it gives you a flashback to Mr. Birchum's childhood, where he's being raised by a hippie single mother.
Yes.
You can be anything I want you to be. A social worker, a folk singer. And then there's like young, doughy Mr. Birchum. And they're like, he looks out the window and there are guys building a house next door. It's a job site. And they're like drinking beer and working with power tools. And he's just like, one day I can develop a painkiller addiction thanks to my horrible job. But like, it's just this idea of like being crushed by female authority. And like the attitude seems to be like all of those absentee, alcoholic, emotionally frozen fathers of the 70s, they actually weren't horrible. They were good because they prevented you from being gay. And now that there are dads that are like present in their kids' lives and like emotionally mature, that's why we have gender nowadays.
And earlier in that episode, he's high on ethanol fumes and he has a sexy dream about Mr. Fagalucci. So like what is Adam, what is he processing? That $2 million could have been better spent at a therapist's office. But that wouldn't drive Western European wages down to Eastern European prices. So who knows?
The therapy, Ben. The only doctor I see is Dr. Jim Beam. I'm an alcoholic.
I want to talk about in that episode where we're talking about where it's a parody. I mean, parody. That's really stretching it. It's basically just a reference to the film 127 Hours with James Franco, where he gets his hand caught in a lathe, and he's trapped in the wood shop when he's supposed to be on a camping trip, and he's like away for the week, and his family doesn't notice. But like they break something in the house, and then like the wife and son, who's like a disgusting gamer, he's a disgusting Twitch streamer, they have to fix something in the house and they fuck it up. So they have to call the daughter back from her summer camp. And this is another great reference. Earlier in the episode, they mentioned that the daughter is going to theater camp where they're doing as the play, a child-friendly version of Pulp Fiction. Now, that could there's potential for comedy there. There's
they
potential.
Screw up the reaction. They should have said, "How is that even possible?"
And then
they don't even write the joke right. Continue, please.
Then they call the stepdaughter back to like fix a leak in the basement, and she shows up as Harvey Keitel's character, the wolf, and she's like, "I'm thinking this is sort of a domesticated style house. So I'm gonna need towels. As many towels. It doesn't need to look dry, but just not so any John Q. Law sticking his nose in the." So I thought the blown comedic potential is if they had recreated the scene in Pulp Fiction that happened just before Harvey Keitel shows up. And you know the one I'm talking about because it features Quentin Tarantino.
What flavor is this?
Knock it off, Julie.
What?
I don't need you to tell me how fucking good my coffee is, okay? I'm the one who buys it. I know how good it is. When Bonnie goes shopping, she buys shit. I buy the gourmet expensive stuff because when I drink it, I want to taste it.
And if they had just had the daughter played the Quentin Tarantino character, shall we say, expressing his exasperation that his house is not meant to store certain items and bodies, I think that would have been a much better Pulp Fiction parody.
That would have required that would have required them taking risks or actually daring to make a kind of edgy joke. God forbid they do that. It's just like the thing they do with the pawn shop joke. Like instead of actually having like a scene with actual comedic potential, relating to the pawn shop scene in Pulp Fiction, they just say it. They just say, "Don't go to a pawn shop." Ha ha! I remembered from the fucking movie.
Yes.
Good thing you didn't actually make a joke there. I would have actually had to see something. I would have actually had to see you set something up and execute it. But no, you just fucking said it like you do everything on the show.
Jules, when you pulled up to my house, did you see a sign on my front yard that said "All Lives Matter"? No, because all lives matter ain't my fucking job. See, that's how you do it. That's how you fucking do it. Let's go.
I hate all. There's just one thing I have to point out about this episode. So he gets his coat stuck in the lathe, okay? And I was screaming about this the whole time. Take off your coat. Just take off your coat. And then at the end, I think, they'll show like he couldn't have taken off his coat. But then a kid cuts his sleeve and he slides his hand out of the sleeve. And I'm like, literally in this episode, he was making fun of kids with learning disabilities. You have a learning disability. Take off your coat. Are the mittens knit inside? What's the problem?
I want to talk about the one moment in the 4 episodes that I watched for this that has subtracted years from my life. But I want to talk about the one moment that genuinely made me laugh, and it was not intentional. But it's in the 2nd episode, which is about Mr. Birchum and his friends from the Navy. It's Veterans Day in Los Angeles. And again, like this show's depiction of Los Angeles. You want to talk about budget constraints? They use the same backdrops from fucking Richard Scarry's Busy Town. There is no way on earth that you could possibly guess that this show takes place in California, let alone the greater Los Angeles area from what is depicted. So anyway, it's Veterans Day in Los Angeles. And Mr. Birchum and his friends from the Navy are doing a sort of pub crawl where they gorge themselves on food and alcohol until they throw up. Because they're like, that's what America, that's what we fought, the liberty that we fought to protect.
My God. This
and
episode pissed me off so much.
And like, the antagonists are a group of 4 identical guys who were served in the army. So the episode culminates with, I swear to God, I'm not making this up, a food fight between the Army and the Navy.
What?
Food fight to determine who will get access to an Irish pub to get drunk at. Okay? Like I said, anti-comedy, pure death, the abyss, abandon all hope. Like not even a shred of anything that could be considered a joke. Save for at the very end of the episode, they're all getting drunk and giving a toast to America and freedom. And then it just like it zooms in on like the wall of the pub, and it's supposed to be dedicated to a veteran who established the pub. And it zooms in, and then it just like puts a title card on the screen that says, "Sincerely, thank you to all who served." I was genuinely laughing at that because they were just like, "Hey, we like to have fun here on Mr. Birchum with wild, outrageous comedy plots that involve a food fight. But let's remember what this episode is really about: thanking those members of our men and women of America's armed forces for serving this country,
for doing empire in Vietnam. Thank you."
Yeah, it's like the pressure of like lampooning Veterans Day was so great that they were like, Jeremy Boring probably like woke up in the middle of the night in a panic and was like, put a fucking plaque on the wall that says "Thank you to veterans." I'm having nightmares about this, but like
we need a second draft.
Yeah, even that wasn't enough. So like the whole point of the episode, which is that the Army guys and the Navy guys hate each other. After the food fight, which is just like, this is for babies. Am I watching fucking Rugrats? After that, that was too much tension. God forbid. Too much tension and friction. Mr. Birchum says to the fucking Army guys,
well, you guys may be the army guys, and I hate you, but I love you because we both serve. Let's go to the Irish bar together. So there was no point in any of it.
No.
It was already a shitty premise because that's not how fucking bars work. No bar is like, all right, we're only letting in this group of 4 friends tonight. Everyone else, get the fuck out.
Well, and how it should have worked is at the end of the episode, Mr. Birchum wins by getting the high ground, and he remembers that his gamer son had said, "I'm good at strategy." And I was like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme of like, look, a relationship. Look, you should have had him realize. You should have had him talk to his son. It should have been about relating to his son and like passing on values and finding respect for what his son knew, and then passing on what he knows to his son. That creates a heart to it to hang jokes off of. No, Mr. Birchum never tells his son that he used his information. This is like major. This is why it's first draft script shit. And I'm just like vibrating of like, try writing a joke, please.
Well, you say that, Ben, but my memory banks are being pillaged by having to think about this show. But I do remember there's one joke at the end of the Veterans Day episode where Roseanne Barr, through like a fog of like Dilaudid and benzos, the weak pussy bitch teacher shows up, and he's like, "Oh, principal, what are you doing here?" And she's like, Roseanne goes, get away from our table. This is for real warriors, not social justice warriors.
I died a little when I heard that.
Yeah, but her character was in the Coast Guard. That's not a warrior.
And then they have the audacity in that episode to have Vietnamese masseuses articulate, America's the greatest country in the world. We came here.
Oh, that part.
Oh my god,
that part was like that is in the boomer conservative Quran, where like they don't do any research. They assume the audience doesn't know anything about Vietnam either. So like they talk about Vietnam like it is Yeomi's Park descriptions of North Korea. Like they're talking about Vietnam, and they're like, in Vietnam, they force us at gunpoint who to vote for. And if you have an opinion, they kill you.
Yes.
If you have an opinion, they kill you.
Yeah.
No one has an opinion in Vietnam.
And they're like, you rich American ladies, you don't understand. Like, you're just so lucky to have a choice in a democracy. And by the way, you only lost that war because the media stabbed your soldiers in the back.
Bring our boys home.
POWMIA. Fly the flag.
It was just, like, it was so like all these things that like I don't even think like defectors have said about Vietnam. They're like, if you read a book, they cut your eyes out. Yeah, I'm sure that's happening. Let's invade again.
And then like I like the third episode, that's the one about the Chinese power tools.
Yeah,
and I really
totally incoherent.
I really appreciated the sequence in this episode where like he has to go to a millennial tool store called U-Tool, and it's just an Apple store, and they're like, would you like a hammer that makes EDM beats? And he's just like, I've only bought one hammer in my life, and I still have it, and it's made in America. And that's the joke. But then at the end of the episode,
satirizing? What are they satirizing here?
Well, let damn millennials and their Apple stores, and like, but now they're going to make power tools like gay computers.
Don't they like computers? Don't they like multinational corporations who are the backbone of the American economy?
At the end of that episode, he confronts the Chinese CEO of the hardware store company, and then like he's like, "Oh, like you're our target demographic. Like, you know, here's a table saw for free," and like, but it has like surveillance in it, and then like the end of the episode is like the Chinese CEO and a Chinese general who's his father being like, very good. We will spy on the American middle class thanks to our power tools. And like, once again, it's just like, what? I know China is the enemy, but like, what is going on here? What are they thinking?
What's the other option? No tools? Get over it, guys.
That's just about. I mean, I watched these episodes today, and thankfully, I remember almost nothing about it. I mean, like, did you have any other choice gags or bits or baffling moments from this show, or is it just like was it so draining that like it's all essentially blank now?
It's bad. It's really bad. I found researching the production way more interesting, and my little scheme emailing with the producer. One of the people at DailyWire Plus that made this happen used to be their kids content programming guy, and that definitely got me thinking like this is Bluey for boomers.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It has a color palette that's known to calm boomers. It has a calming effect on boomers. I have one more quote here from the Washington Examiner review of this, and it says here, Daily Wire figures said of their live-action movie Lady Ballers, the story of a group of male losers who pretend to be women so they can finally win basketball games, that it was meant to evoke memories of Hollywood pre-2008. Jeremy Boring, CEO of the Daily Wire, said of Hollywood comedy that it peaked in 2008 with Ben Stiller's Tropic Thunder and went downhill in the Obama years as Hollywood shifted towards the ethos of progressive social responsibility. And just like that, the outrageous comedy that had defined the prior decade and elevated the profiles of Will Ferrell, Ben Stiller, John C. Reilly, Rob Riggle, Ed Helms, and Zach Galifianakis began to fade away. And I love the shout out to Tropic Thunder. It's like, a comedy peaked with Tropic Thunder because Robert Downey Jr. was in blackface. But the thing is, Tropic Thunder is a funny movie. Even the worst Will Ferrell or Zach Galifianakis comedy washes this shit out. And it's just like this idea that like, we're creating the comedy of 2008. It's like you can't even recreate the politics of 2008 in this show. Like, so you're gonna be doing the humor like that's like John C. Reilly or Will Ferrell. Like, are you high? What like? And they're doing such a bad job of it too. Like,
well, and they're not even trying.
The point of Tropic Thunder was not that racism is funny.
Like, if any single scene in this show, if any one of them was 1% as funny as the other guys, right? Or any seminal 2008 through 2012 comedy, they would like people would be declaring this like a home run. They would be like, "You guys did it! You brought back comedy," because people are playing with such kid gloves with them. Like the fact that this even got positive reviews at all tells me that like whoever was going to review this anyway was primed to like it no matter what. But they could not manage that. They could not manage a fraction of that. There is none of the DNA of any of the 2000s in this besides like the cultural references. That's it. There's none of the form or the function of those years anywhere close to this.
Well, and they don't put the resources or really invest in people, frankly. Like, I'm going to come back to budget. I'm sure Adam Carolla and two other people, his buddy who likes to make racing documentaries, who was on top of this, they made money off of it. Did anyone who really wrote it spend much time on it? No. They had an opportunity to do something here and they squandered it, and then they spent nothing on the animation because they thought, as the show says, art is for pussies, art is for idiots. And then they go and they make art. What's the message? You're mocking the literal thing you're making during the show. And then there's no gags. There's no love of gags. There's no love of animation in this. And there's no reason for it to be animated. Like, if they don't use the medium of animation in any way, like, say what you will about Family Guy. Once again, I have to give love to Family Guy that it is doing jokes that only animation can do. South Park is doing things that only animation can do. The Simpsons is its own universe that you can like ensconce yourself in. Great. Mr. Birchum could be like a single camera show. There's no reason to do it animation other than you can pay Eastern Europeans to draw your fucking shit for you. It is so infuriating for me, but then it's also like, it's liberating because we can do this. Like, this isn't hard. They did a shitty job and people did it. Let's make a show.
It should be like when that Russian defector flew to Japan in a MiG-25 that he stole. We should sell them Secret Uncles.
Yes. What's Secret Uncles?
Secret Uncles is like it's a fake Christian movie we made up for a Texas show that we did with Thomas and Jake from Bideo Time. I think like if they saw the concept for Secret Uncles, they would give us $50 million.
Hey, man.
They would give us like a stash of Miriam Adelson money.
I love sending fake emails to people. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Well, Ben, you said this movie didn't invest much in people. Au contraire. So in this Washington Examiner article, where it like I said, it ticks off the stars of a prior decade, including Will Ferrell, Ben Stiller, John C. Reilly, Ed Helms, and Zach Galifianakis. And it says they began to fade away. But then the next paragraph is, enter Tyler Fisher. Not necessarily a discount Galifianakis, but certainly a comedian who carries his torch of flippant absurdity with a totally straight face. Fisher shines in Mr. Birchum as Mr. Carponzi, the he-him-zer diversity and inclusion officer for the school, also known as a Jedi, justice, equality, diversity, inclusion. Yes, this is a real thing because DEI was not cool enough for some of the nation's nerdiest guidance counselor. I love that. It's like the classic thing where like conservatives can't finish a joke because they get too angry. This guy gets too angry. He can't finish the fake promotion he's doing for, in his words, the discount Galifianakis that the Daily Wire is trying to, flog on the rest of the world.
Yeah, this is a baffling sentence. He's even better than Zach Galifianakis. And another thing, they're fucking gay.
Yeah, they were really touting out the voice cast for this, and they had like, we have Patrick Warburton, everybody. He has 2 lines, and he plays like a Steakums salesman in it. Like, it's not a character, and everyone was like, oh no, Patrick Warburton, he's a conservative. I don't know what Danny Trejo is in it, but no, this is a disaster. This is a giant train wreck, and I don't think either they have such little respect for their audience that they thought that this was good, or they're just writing this slop off.
The thing that baffled me about this the most possibly was that, and it's what makes me think that it's more that they had contempt, is the way that they marketed this. They marketed this as like, oh, watch out, edgy comedy is back. And I don't know how anyone could see this show, much less make this show, know so much about the show from making it, that they would choose to market it that way.
Yeah.
The jokes are all
one of the
PG
safest things.
Parental guidance.
It's so fucking safe. It's insane. Like, Steven Universe is like edgier than this.
Yes.
Steven Universe should get its based or not based.com rating.
I was reading in one of the other reviews of this that I read, described it says, and featuring a star-studded voice acting cast that features Brett Cooper, Tyler Fisher, Alonzo Budden, and James Arnold Taylor.
James Arnold Taylor?
Alonzo Budden? Yeah.
I love like what constitutes a star in the conservative media world. It's like a minor league baseball player who got drummed out of the league for threatening to kill Obama. That's like their equivalent of like a superstar.
I do it like I want to come back and say I think Megyn Kelly actually did a really good job on this, and I feel so bad for her because so much of the show is ridiculizing her character, and also Adam Carolla being sort of creepy sex guy towards her in one episode. And I feel like some of this show might have just been made so that Adam Carolla can try to hit on Megyn Kelly.
Yeah,
we're married in the cartoon. The thing's time to consummate our relationship.
Stop doing the voice.
And I feel like we began the episode. How come there's no Dr. Drew? Can we get a Dr. Drew cameo on this?
Oh, Dr. Drew should like do a dare class for all the students where he kills them all with fentanyl.
Yes, that's funny.
That's
funny.
That's good. He counsels Jeanie, and he's like, girls that show an interest in their father's behavior are likely the victims of incest.
That was, for people who don't know what specifically we're making fun of, on the show Loveline, anytime a woman like had kind of a high voice or like giggled or really did anything, Dr. Drew would be like, you were molested severely. It was an insane show. It speaks to how funny Adam Carolla was, that like people like I remember it fondly, despite how like horrific Dr. Drew was.
I remember Dr. Drew's other thing on Loveline is that anytime a question would venture into the area of anal sex, Dr. Drew would make it a point to tell in vivid detail that if you have anal sex even once, you will spend you will lose all control of your bowels. You will just shit will just fall out of your ass because the guy's just been ran through too many times, or even once. He was like, anal sex, not even once. It's the most dangerous and horrific violence you can do to your body, and it will cause you to shit your pants nonstop.
If you ever want to wonder what doctors were like before, like Louis Pasteur,
and I know
same survival rate too.
And I know we've talked about this on the show before, but please, if you were too young to remember Dr. Drew or remember his show on VH1, Celebrity Rehab, look up Celebrity Rehab and look at the mortality rate of the people Dr. Drew has treated for addiction. It is horrifying.
Dr. Drew is like the John Wick of like celebrities from the early 90s. If you were hot in like 1993, Dr. Drew is taking you out one way or the other. He has more fucking bodies than King Von.
All right, gang. Let's leave it there for today. I cannot possibly think about Mr. That's enough, Mr. Birchum, for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
dude, not even once. It's like my attitude toward Mr. Birchum is the same as Dr. Drew's towards anal sex. No,
no matter what,
not even a little.
Fucked.
Not
exact
even a little.
Yeah, exact same effects.
Yeah. All right, we'll wrap it up there. But until next time,
let me plug.
Go out.
Let me plug my book,
Justice Warriors. Yeah.
Yes, I have a beautiful book called Justice Warriors. Please go check it out. Maybe there'll be a Simon and Schuster link in the show notes because it'll pay for my eventual retirement. One day, hopefully, maybe, I don't know. And then I have another book coming out called Justice Warriors Volume 2, Vote Harder, which you can pre-order now. It's really funny. It looks like an Otomo book. It looks like Akira, but with politics jokes in it. Please go check it out. It's good.
Ben is an incredibly talented artist. If you've been to some of our live shows in the past few years, you've seen his work. We highly recommend like anything that he's involved with, really. But we will have links in the description for this. Ben, thank you so much.
Oh my God, thanks, guys. Kisses. Mwah.
All right, everybody. Till next time. See you around. Bye-bye.
Men who masturbate don't run out of sperm. Millions of 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 sperm every day.
Oh, it's half over? Jesus.
Sperm every day.
All right, now break it down.
Sperm, every sperm, every sperm, every sperm, every sperm.
Don't have to break it down at some point?
Sperm, every day.
Now break it down. Here it comes. Here's where I go to the robot.
Even in the 1940s and 1950s, about 94% of men and 40% of women were masturbating. It was impossible to keep people from doing it. Laws didn't work.
I gotta know where this came from.
Laws didn't work.
I gotta know where this...
Once a day may not be too much, depending on your situation. There is no wrong way to masturbate.
Adam?
There is no wrong way.
Once a day, see?
There is no wrong way.
Maybe okay.
Once a day. Yeah, but that's once during the day.